Wake up, everyone. This is what they don't realize. They are, in fact, the surety and the collateral for a defunct, bankrupted, and coming after the collateral right now, China and all the other creditors, to take, chip, embed, mark, and patent all of you. That is on the books. It's Supreme Court verified and validated, and these chips and patents are already in existence. And I am 100% out of that, and I do not comply, and I do not have to do any of that as a state citizen because I am one of the creditors. Again, we're switching positions of being contracted to being uncontracted and beneficiary based on an administrative procedure, and it works 100% of the time.
Okay, good. Welcome back. Okay, today I'm super excited about introducing you to Kelby Smith. This guy is a warrior. Okay, director of His Advocates, and we know what he's talking about. Okay, my boss, educating on becoming a self-governed Americans, and this is huge. Ability to reach millions of Americans uncensored, and everyone knows that I've had a challenge with that lately through Apple and Android apps. Plus, His Advocates Network through Roku, Amazon Fire, Android, Apple TV, Samsung. This guy is a warrior, creating a freedom network. Now, Kelby, thank you so much, brother, for coming on. For those that don't know, can you share your story? For going from real estate investor to executive director of His Advocates, how'd you get there?
So right now I'm a part of 5 different private foundations. One of them is His Advocates, but I went from the lending business back starting in '97 to getting about 130 loan officers under a building in Irvine, and we were funding loans. I just didn't get a few things as to why they weren't recording the notes with the deeds of trust. I had a private capital company. It's called yourcapitalsource.com. It still exists today. Your Capital Source Foundation now. I didn't understand the lending business like I should have, even though I was proficient in it. And I started trying to figure out why they were separating the notes from the deeds of trust. And then I ended up finding out a ton of fraud. And basically, people are self-executing their own mortgage trusts, and they're prepaying these loans. And I can prove this. I can show unequivocally that when Wells Fargo signs the back of your note, they're cashing your check, unequivocally. So for me, I immediately, and I know people don't understand this, why, but I had to exit the loan business because I was not performing loans. And it's all fraud. Nobody ever gets a countersigned deed of trust, loan documents, note, nothing. It's self-executing private trust. And they cash these checks, and then they take the note, they put it on 30, they put it into 30 different tranches, slice it up, get 30 different CUSIPs, and register it across Wall Street. Investors, raise all kinds of capital up. And now these deeds of trust really have no way of performing upon the deed of trust, because the note and the deed of trust has to stay together for the deed of trust to be valid. So we've been able to invalidate a lot of deeds of trust and get houses free and clear. We've been able to help people in 400 to 500 different cases with reducing their principal balances. But Dr. Bergman, I saw Henry Paulson on his knees begging Nancy Pelosi in like 2007 for an $800 billion bailout. And here I have all these clients who are hurting, needing financial support for the real estate boom and crashing that was taking place. And they gave it to the banks directly instead of giving it to the people with low interest rates loans, which would have gone straight to the banks anyway. And I just saw the act that was taking place. And then I had a guy who worked for me who went to a seminar, and he kept trying to get me to go to this seminar. I'm like, dude, I don't have the time. I love you, bro, but I don't have the time. And he yelled at me one day, and I'm like, whoa, Don, I love you. What's going on? So I go to this seminar and I start determining and finding out everything that my future was now based on, his advocates. So we started his advocates in 2010, formulated it in 12. We were on a seminar tour across the nation, and I realized that there was the United States corporation and the United States of America people. And I realized that, what I'm going to get into, I can verify and validate in law for anybody. And so that's the easy part. The United States, being a corporation, Title 28, subsection 3002, the United States exclusive jurisdiction is in the District of Columbia, 9 UCC 307H. So what does that make the border to border? It makes the United States of America. So what this corporation did from 1871 to 1933 was steal the wealth of the nation, period. I can give you all the laws pertaining to that. And then in 1933, they crashed the market in 29, created the Buck Act, the Emergency War Powers Act, the Trading with the Enemy Act, and the Social Security Administrative Act, all in like 7-8 years. Made the people, the government, we the people, made them the surety, the collateral, by making them employees of the United States, and gave them an employment ID number called the Social Security number. Now, all of that is a fact. All of that made me spin my head. And everybody out there is a state of the union citizen, but they have an employment contract to the United States, which lessens their rights as an American. So by being a United States employee or a United States citizen, you're literally holding an office, and statutes, codes, and ordinances are the employment rules. And they have to contract with you in multiple different ways under equity to show that they have subject matter jurisdiction over you. And this is how they get warrants and indictments. And this is all we did. We started testing this in 13, 14, 15, and perfected it in 15. We started applying for passports as state citizens. No social security, no residence address per se. Saying we are not U.S. citizens, we are citizens of California or Arizona or, one of the 50 several states of the union. And lo and behold, we were getting passports. And
your international passports.
You can fly anywhere in the world as a state of the union citizen issued by the Department of State. Yes. And we have done this tens of thousands of times. We're not rookies at this by now. So the next thing, though, is to free people. And this is what we did. And without getting into the whole program, we took a warrant and we took an indictment, hundreds of them, and we took all the things that they wrote down, and we built a reverse engineering model that allows for people to do all these things to undo their contracts with the corporation. And now, instead of being the trustee of these individual trusts, let me explain a driver's license, for example. You think you're signing a contract with the state. You're not. You're creating what's known as an adhesion trust. They don't ever countersign it. They're the grantor. They give you the form. They're the beneficiary. Read the back. If you do this, you're going to pay this and do 6 months in jail. You're signing on as a trustee. And what do they hand you? A piece of plastic. And so it's one of your jobs with the United States. Another one is a voter. Another one is SSA. Another one is IRS. And so you have all these adhesion trusts. Every single one of those is not countersigned. Every single one of those is done in a fraud format, especially the Social Security. I mean, I was 13 years old. How do I make a conscionable contract at age 13 with a corporation that's masquerading as a nation called the United States? How do I do that? It's not fair. And so we moved you through an administrative process from being the trustee to being the beneficiary on all those forms. And so allowing for you to be able to prove up that you are no longer the surety or the collateral for the corporation. Because wake up, everyone. This is what they don't realize. They are, in fact, the surety and the collateral for a defunct, bankrupted, and coming after the collateral right now, China and all the other creditors, to take, ship, embed, mark, and patent all of you. That is on the books. It's Supreme Court verified and validated, and these chips and patents are already in existence. And I am 100% out of that, and I do not comply, and I do not have to do any of that as a state citizen because I am one of the creditors. I'm not one of the debtors.
If you break down just the driver's license, because most people are under the impression that in order to drive a car in a state, you got to have that driver's license that gives you the right to drive.
Yeah, no, that's a really good lie. The reality is, the federal law has already determined in multiple Supreme Court cases that you are not required to have a license to drive a motor vehicle on the highways, byways, or streets. Now tell a law enforcement that, and he's going to pull us out by our dreadlocks and treat us like, a sovereign citizen. And because Homeland Security has trained the FBI and the FBI has trained local law enforcement to go after all these people that are called sovereign citizens. And we've had the workaround with that. We don't need to give up the license. The license is for the registered organization, the birth certificate. We move you from being the surety and the collateral, canceling the license or the contract with the man, and we move you into a position of beneficial interest. So now you're holding a license in your wallet. You hand it to the law enforcement. You hand them the insurance. You hand them the registration or whatever, and you get a ticket issued. We recommend call 1-800-TICKETS. Pay the $99. The law enforcement shows up for you, and 99% of the time you get the ticket wiped out. We're not playing. I always tell people this. We're not going up in the mountains and growing our hair long and having a driver's license burning party and living in tents. That's not us. We're just being smarter than they are. Because it's a trust, and because we're the trustee, we can switch the trust around from a position of liability to beneficiary just by an administrative process. And that is a rock solid way to get something done. We put it in the public, we serve them with constructive notice, and we put all kinds of stuff behind them. Here's the bottom line. Tens of thousands of people have gone through our program. Nobody gets harassed. Nobody gets a knock on the door. Nobody has issues with the IRS. And yes, watch this. The IRS has a thing in their code called the revocation of election. Because they are not lawful, everything is therefore voluntary. Because people fill out a W-4 or a W-9, they get a W-2 or a 1099. So those are the people that go to jail or have a promise because they make contracts with the IRS as U.S. citizens or foreign nationals, and they don't file the return. That's the problem, or they file a fake return. So we show people how to do the revocation of election, which means remove the jurisdictional element permanently, notice of status, and a removal. This is the important one, the removal of signature, because you've already pre-consented to have them sign on your behalf to file returns. Why do they want to file a return? Because they make money on your return setting the debt off. A set off is a payment to the IRS from the Treasury on your behalf from your birth bond.
So the Internal Revenue Service, now I know that they were started to get funds for a war and they just kept it up and it's illegal. When the Comrade Newsom decided to shut down everything, he was supposed to appoint a committee so that it wasn't going after our rights as the California state constitution, and he never did that. So the government does a lot of illegal things that aren't correct. But how do you like drive a car? The car's got to have to have a license plate.
Oh, we still have the plates. We just put the plates and the vehicle titles in the name of private foundations that are unincorporated, unregistered. We do the insurance the same way. We still hold a license in our wallet. I don't play the game of driving around without a license in my wallet. Again, we're switching positions of being contracted to being uncontracted and beneficiary based on an administrative procedure, and it works 100% of the time. So on that element, it's like, how do you stay free from on a go forward basis? How do you renew your license? Those are all things that we train people on. How do you get a bank account? Those are all things we help people on. How do you get an exchange account? See, we help people with a private foundation that has no requirement to file a return ever. We set them up with exchange accounts. We register them with E-Trade accounts, stock trade accounts. We register them with bank accounts. Now they're operating through a foundation and not their registered organization or their birth certificate name. So now, therefore, there's already an acknowledged entity that's contracted with the bank, the exchange, or the stock trading company that is tax-free. So anything that comes in from a gain on crypto, on stocks, on compensation has nothing to do with your all caps name or your registered organization name. And therefore, you're building a layer between you and the IRS. Even though you're not earning an income personally ever, we still want to build layers of protection for people. So we register, we don't register anything. We help people with a trust or a foundation or an unincorporated business trust or a PMA. We do all kinds of structures for people depending on what their needs are. They're all unregistered. And that means one thing: they don't have jurisdiction over entities that are unregistered. And therefore, they're untaxable. How do they get people? They scare people with letters, and you think, oh, I got to report everything. And no, you don't. No, you don't, because this entity does not belong to them. Now, it could be perceived that if you're making money and you're bringing it into a personal bank account and there's gains in these different things, it could be perceived that they would come after somebody and file a charge instrument if they're a U.S. citizen. As a state citizen, it's not possible because there is no jurisdiction, number one. Number two, we're not even receiving compensation or income through that entity or through your name, because we close personal bank accounts and we run everything through private trusts. And that's how you nail it 6 ways to Sunday. You can earn millions a month and it would not matter, and they can't do anything about it. 100%. I've helped hundreds of doctors, I have federal agents, I have cops, I have retired law enforcement, I have plumbers, I have NFL football players, I have doctors with 20 million followers. I have, you name it, big whales, saved them tens of millions of dollars because of restructuring their way they conduct business.
Because I've been looking into the state sovereignty for a while, on and off. I do not like that the government isn't following the Constitution, okay, which drives me nuts, because there's a lot of parts of the Constitution, like freedom of expression, freedom of speech, religion, things that they're not following.
You know why?
Why?
Because you're an employee to the company, and the employment manual is waiving your rights under God to have unalienable rights. You now have to go with the substandard rights of being a civil citizen instead of unalienable rights under God. And that's the simple way to put it. And people say there's 2 constitutions. There's not. There's one constitution, but what the United States did, and I can show people on the house.gov and the library website, where they took and adopted the Constitution, but they bracketed the first 10 Bill of Rights. And if anybody understands what a bracket means, it's the removal within that document, and they accepted the 11th on, and specifically the 14th Amendment, creating a class citizenship. Now, look, here's the thing. You look at the original document on the Constitution, citizens, a capital C. Look at the 14th Amendment. It's a lowercase c, and you're a possession of the United States. Read the words. Read the words. And so they made the corporation the early 1800s, but they formally input the corporation in the District of Columbia in 1871. Corporation formally adopted the Constitution, but bracketed and removed the first 10 amendments so that you don't have the rights if you join the 14th Amendment as a U.S. citizen. And now you become employees. But in 1933, they put it in high gear. Trading with the Enemy Act, Buck Act, Emergency War Powers Act, Social Security Administrative Act, and everybody became formal employees of the United States and thus lost all their rights. Why? Because they bankrupted the United States in 1933. HJR 192. And then they made the people citizens of the United States Corporation, employees. And then they made the people that were employees, United States citizens, they made them enemy combatants and belligerents against the United States because they were no longer creditors, they were the debtors.
What? So is the title that we need to go to get back our own sovereignty, our own citizenship. Okay, so that we can go to the reality that we do have freedoms, that we have rights that can't be taken away. They're not granted; they're actually ours. Is it called sovereign citizen or freedom? What's the title? Like, what would you call yourself?
Kelby. State citizen. I mean, yeah, I'm a citizen of heaven based on my belief first, but the reality is the closest thing that you have to that in the world is a state of the union citizen. See, the founders were not U.S. citizens. They were a part of a movement of people. Now, I want to read you something. Here's a law book, Black's Law. I'm opening it up randomly to a word called state. And I'm going to read you two things, and it's going to, for anybody that understands law, words mean something. And the word state means two different things. For the all capital letter state, meaning, watch this. You live in Orange County, like me.
Yeah.
What is the register called? The Orange County Register, right? Mm-hmm. Because it was created 100 years ago. And that's what our county's name was. Then they created the corporation and called it the County of Orange. Just like Huntington has two. It has the original de jure name, then it has the city of Huntington. And then you have, so everything that we had in this country was original de jure equivalent, from the boroughs to the cities, to the municipalities, to the counties, to the state, to the federal. All was incorporated all the way down to the person. Now, people are known as artificial persons, and that's the birth certificate that they are, which the birth certificate is the U.S. citizen, UCC 9, registered organization, look it up. The birth certificate is the U.S. citizen. So watch, state, all caps, a community of persons living within limits of territory. What's territory? It's not land. Under a permanent organization which aims to secure the prevalence of justice by self-imposed law. Now, the lowercase definition of state, the original state of California, 1849, means this: a body of people who are politically organized. So 1849, politically organized, created the state of California. One document called the California Constitution. Google, is the 1849 California Constitution still active law today? Yes. 1879 Constitution. I had this out with the Library of Congress in California, and he was flabbergasted. He's, oh, you're one of those sovereigns. I'm like, no, I don't know what you're talking about. But I had him pull two certified copies of the 1849 and 1879 Constitution. And I said, this is the corporate, this is the de jure. And I slid the corporate forward, and I said, show me where this annuls, adopts, ratifies, alters, changes anything the 1849 Constitution. He already knew the answer. He never thought about it that way.
Wow.
What happened is he now knows there's an 1849 Constitution that has nothing to do with the 1879. And I also black slot him with the same thing on state. And then I took him to persons and I started showing him the path. And he go, oh my God, are you kidding me? And then I showed him my application as a state citizen, which I can show anybody, and with the Department of State. And then I showed him my passport and the numbers all matched. And he's like, that is amazing. And we just fail for a lack of knowledge. We just don't know what we don't know because everything is right there in front of us. When you look at the Homeland Security documents regarding sovereign citizens, or you look at the FBI documents regarding sovereign citizens, you know what they failed to mention in those documents? State citizens.
So words matter. Now I know
Words
capital letters matter.
Yeah.
So you got a passport that you could use internationally that was issued by the Department of State or the State Department of California?
It's the United States Department of State, Washington, D.C.
No kidding.
Yeah.
And you could travel internationally on this.
I just got back from Cabo, went to Europe over the summer. Yeah.
Wow. Because when I was looking into the state sovereignty, they didn't, they said, no, we're trying to work it out, or sovereign citizen movement. You couldn't, they didn't have that problem worked out. And you've been doing this for, God,
Bro,
15 years?
I have no idea how many people we truly have helped, because we used to give this away. And then the Department of State buckled down on the no social and started fighting there. They started fighting on the claim of being a United States of America citizen versus United States. So now we have to write 2 or 3 rebuttals, and therefore we have to charge for a service. It's like $5.98 for a passport process. We do the actual docs. We do all the rebuttals. Everything is handled for you. You just follow instructions and you can have a passport.
And I got to tell you, that's incredibly reasonable. I travel a lot internationally, and my passport was going to be done in like 4 months, and you can't leave the United States unless you have it more than 6 months before its expiration date. And so I paid $498 to a service to get it expedited so I could get a new passport in 2 weeks.
So what'd you say? You can't leave the United States if it's 6 months away from an expiration date?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow, you just schooled me.
But that's the airlines.
Oh, the airlines won't let you leave?
No. They
even if you have a return flight?
Even if you have a return flight.
Huh.
It's very, very frustrating.
Yeah.
I mean, so if people, because you're saying things, they're going to totally mess with people's belief systems completely. When I first heard about this stuff 5-6 years ago, and when you look into the Council of Rome, that the United States is a corporation, that the District of Columbia is, and all of this, it seems incredulous. It seems it can't be true. Okay, but it is.
I was there, man, in 2008. I'm like, are you kidding me? This has got to be BS. And I looked into it for 6 months and verified it. And I went on a life-changing, pissed off, I'm going to get them mentality, and we figured it out. There's things out there that people started, we piggybacked on, we perfected, and now we help thousands and thousands of people do this. And it's a lot of work, but people cannot do this on their own. They don't know how. And here's what happens when a set of documents gets out there. Somebody perverts them and changes all of them. I think it's somebody, an agent or whatever. And then they market that. And I will always tell people respectfully, I said, look, if you see a set of our docs out there, don't use them. You don't know how to respond to certain things. You don't know if they are correct. You don't know if they've been changed. And I'm like, if docs are out there and they're sold by anybody but this, you need to be very careful. And it's because we want to make sure that the name, His Advocates, has a good name. We don't have any hiccups. We don't have any complaints out there. We don't have any issues, and it's because we have a great team and we do things right. And it's one of those things that um there's a big counter movement to this. Just like there's the two, you got one blonde hair guy trying to get into office, and there's 90 indictments or whatever the indictments are. There's a big counter movement against him. Freedom is battled for, and that's what we are doing. It's like we're battling to not just remove your jurisdiction, remove you from paying a dime of tax to this corporation. Why? Because they're funding. When people find out,
so the rewards of freedom, of income, of being able to travel and everything without the government restriction, the edicts.
You're just left alone. You're left alone to prevail, to succeed. I mean, and obviously there's tax you can't get around, like gas, gasoline, those different elements. But we can create accounts at Amazon. You can create an account at Home Depot, at these various things, using your foundations as tax exempt organization to get a tax-free basis purchase of equipment or whatever you do. They have to be set up in advance. There's, I don't even call it income anymore. It's absolutely not income. It's compensation for your efforts. Income is a legal term, that we want to stay away from. So, John, it's freedom. It's freedom at its core. It's a biblical requirement. It's a natural requirement. Why would you want to be the slave to a corporation that now has and is actively, and if you know anything about what I'm about to say, and I'm going to be very careful, there is nanotechnologies that are working with the Internet of Things that are hopefully going to be, per them, not me, marking people in the near future with a centralized chip created by many different manufacturers, but one of the main ones is Microsoft with a chip number 060606. And it's a patented chip under patentscope.com. Everybody can go look it up. And that chip is going to be working with the nanoparticulates that have been sprayed over us, have been, put into people, and it's for the purposes of making people a patented, permanently slave, meaning those things that they were doing in the last few years, they created a C-DNA, which alters the state of the actual DNA, which now is patentable because it's a synthetic. And so that's their next move. And it's going to be a very powerful one, a very solid one, and a very strong one. So I'm a big proponent of metal detox. I'm a big proponent of healthy living, growing my own food. I have a backyard full of food growing. And I've bought a bunch of emergency food. We have water systems underground. We have all kinds of things. And that's maybe a whole nother show, what the community of people need to be thinking about for themselves. But we help people to understand how to get through the crisis that's coming, both jurisdictionally and life living. Like we have a VIP membership that it's $49 a month. They're going to click that link below your link, and they'll be able to get crypto training, understanding crypto technologies, understanding how to be able to engage the world and become self-sufficient and be able to do exchanges of money through private devices, both offline and online. There's all kinds of things, John, that we're helping people on the private side to move into. It's a different realm of thinking.
Because I'm trying to get in the mindset of everyone. I've got like 3 different corporations, practices everywhere, crazy, infrastructure that I built over, 40 years of business. And it'll work for me. What about the
100%.
person that's on Social Security, okay, or the person that
100%.
is going to school, and this you've got processes to give independence and freedom, and literally their rights back that they delusionally thought they already had, because
Correct.
that was a wake up call for me. I thought there's uh, so I mean, for sure. I mean, at least look into it, sign up, and in your process, I know you've got the VIP membership, and you've got a whole bunch of different avenues to get educated on this. What would you recommend for someone to start at any level?
Just two things: education, and go become a free member of hisadvocates.org, hisadvocates.org, and download our app on your phone, on your Google or App Store, His Advocates TV, one word, His Advocates TV, second word. And I think it's channel 6 or 7, Living in the Private. There's presentations, there's understanding questions, process flows, and everything we do. We're about to release a big document of over 80 Supreme Court cases that are shepherdized, that are active law today pertaining to state citizens, showing people the law that affords our ability to do what we do, showing people why the Department of State responds, because we are quoting cases, and they're trying to trick you to think there's only a United States citizenship. And this is a battle of freedom. But the most powerful things are education. Become a free member. Somebody will call you. May take a few days. They're generally pretty quick, but somebody will call you, reach out, say hello. My extension is 701. I try to talk to as many people as I can. It's very difficult to run things and talk to everybody, but we have a team to support people and to help people understand freedom. Some people just want the foundation. Some people want the passport. Some people want a full living in the private program. Some people just want the docs for freedom. So, but we have store.hisadvocates.org. We do a lot of different things. But the bottom line is, your education is priority. And the docs, literally, John, the docs are 5 to 10%. I've said this for 15 years. People think, oh, the docs are everything. No, the docs are 10%. 90% is understanding who you are as a free man. That's more important than the docs, because you can have the docs and have somebody approach you and you don't know who you are, and they want to take your stuff. You're going to be looking much like the people did in 1944 when they were getting ushered to a train with 5 guards with guns and 45,000 people all walking towards the trains to get on to go to their demise. We're repeating that right now. It is so important for people to get free right now and to not be a surety for that defunct company. And by the way, people don't know this, but every nation in this world, every one of them, has a corporate equivalent. And all of them are registered under the Securities and Exchange Commission. We traded their souls for that IMF money that went out as a loan. Literally, all the people of the world are under the United States umbrella, under the Securities and Exchange Commission, being traded by a bunch of banksters on Wall Street.
Kelby, everybody's got to get on your site. Okay, I'm going to be there. I'm going to support you in any way I can,
Appreciate
and I'm going
that.
to learn a heck of a lot. And you that pad number, the 060606, I have looked into that. It's true.
It's true.
It really is.
It's
And there's
freaky.
even scarier stuff.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's freaky. It is freaky. The one of the things people should start realizing right now, they only have jurisdiction over things they've created. They created and if I got into the birth certificate and how they have ownership of it, but they own the birth certificate, they own the corporations, they own the LLCs, and they own the registered anything, trust, cars. We've been tricked. Bottom line is, they don't have jurisdiction over things they have not created. And so our trusts, our foundations, our churches, are things that we create for all types of bodies of businesses, are private, unincorporated, and completely allowed to function as a business or whatever capacity. And they are also allowed to hold a lot of capital. Now, I would recommend to people that have retirement accounts, and listen, I take this for a grain of salt. They're coming for your cash. Okay. If you have a retirement account, liquidate it, convert it to hard assets, food, and crypto. Okay. And there's certain types of, and we help people with this with the VIP membership. But if you have your cash in a foundation name, the jurisdiction to take that account over immediately is wanting. Now, if the bank collapses, that's one thing. They can take over any account. And because you agreed to being a stockholder in the bank on the application, there's no such thing as you're going to get 200,000 on your account insured by the FDIC. There's no such thing in a major collapse like that. But if that bank, if you are banking in a right bank, and we have banks that we know are not going to fail. One of them is North Dakota Bank. It's the only state bank in the world. There's different things that we push people towards, help people with, get an understanding of what to do and how to secure their assets and their home. People fail. Look, deeds right now, legal description in the all caps name, they own this. Using Federal Reserve notes, they own this. There's no countersigned deed. It's all grantor signed only. That's not the way you do a deed. Using a legal description that's above land. So I'm in the county recorder, LA. I'm underground looking at patents and deeds with the guy that runs the underground. I'm looking at all the old deeds. Here's what they say. Transfer by gold, no jurisdiction, by hand, using meets and bounds, land. And for an undisclosed amount of, that gold, and putting it in fee simple, absolute title, and with the grantee signature. So we create the proper deeds that you can put your house in right now to where they don't have jurisdiction over them anymore. And where you're the true owner of the land versus a legal description, which is above the land. And that's a reality check for a lot of people. So we help people with their land. We help people with their homes, their cars, their banks, their retirements, you name it. We have gone across the board, and we show people how to properly contract with these organizations using private, unincorporated, unregistered trusts.
We've got to make the effort, brother. Hopefully this could be part 1 of 2.
Or 3 or 4. 1 of 10. I want to have you on my platform talking about what you do.
Yeah, I do radical stuff. Okay, I know we're running out of time, but do you have any final words? I mean, get the links below, sign up. You'll see me signed up there too.
Yeah.
Any final words, man? Because this has been fantastic.
Well, first, thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for being a patriot. Thank you for helping people naturally. What you do is equally, if not more important, for the health of the individual. I do the legal side and the lawful side, and I show people structures. But get registered on hisadvocates.org today. Download His Advocates TV on your phones and get the word out. It's no longer an organization. It's really become a movement, and people are starting to get behind it in different levels. And I appreciate the time. Thank you.
God bless you, brother. Thank you so much. Okay. And keep up with your work. I'll support you in any way I can.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it.